Hey guys! So today I am going to talk about Clockwork Prince by Cassandra Clare, and this is book 2 in the Infernal Devices Trilogy. I love this book. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. The Infernal Devices Trilogy so far is turning out to be one of my favorite trilogies ever. Oh my goodness. I cannot wait for Clockwork Princess to come out here in just a couple weeks. I've already pre-ordered it. So if you've read the first one, which was Clockwork Angel, you know that at the end it was like a big cliffhanger with Will going to Magnus and just being like asking for his help, and it was just kind of over. And basically this book is us finding out about Will's past, and we kind of find out exactly why he is the way he is, and why he kind of, you know, pushes people away, so to speak. The Lightwoods, like Mr. Lightwood is trying to take the Institute from Charolette and Henry. So basically she has like 2 weeks to find Mortman, which is like an impossible task, or the Institute gets taken away from her. And if that's the case, that's going to be super bad for Tessa, because we know that Mortman wants Tessa. And if she's just out on the streets somewhere without a home, because she is a downworlder, or they think, they actually don't know for sure, but you know, she is a downworlder as far as they know, and they don't usually live in the Institute. So that's mostly just Charolette and Henry being nice kind of thing. This book just kind of takes off with that, and then it continues with Jim and Will and Tessa's story, and really gets really good really fast. So you have not read this book, definitely read it, and then come back to this video, because the rest of us are going to talk about this in detail, because oh man, this book was good. Okay, so I was trying to think of some of my favorite parts to talk about in this video, and this is going to be so difficult because I'm being really honest. Like, I just really enjoyed this whole book. I mean, for me, it got good really fast. Like, I was really into it right off the bat. We find out about, like, the Magister, like, how his past, like, we had no idea before that his parents were warlocks and that they were killed by shadow hunters. So now you kind of know, like, there's a motive behind all of this, and he's not just, like, some random, like, person that decides to kill everyone. Jessamine, oh my gosh, so much of this book, she was just like hardly in it at all, and if she was in it, she was just complaining about a headache, or she was just really not in it very much. And then Tessa started noticing her at night. Like, we saw that she was dressing up as a boy, and I always look for the good in people. I never once thought that she was betraying them. Maybe you guys did. I actually thought she was doing something good, because this whole time I think people doubt her, and I was hoping, for some reason I had this idea that she was maybe sneaking out and like doing some, like, something good for once. Like, I for some reason had this idea that, like, even though they think she doesn't do anything, she was actually like sneaking out and she was like finding all this information for them. I was so off. She was doing the exact opposite. She pretty much married the enemy. She married Nate, betrayed them all. That's why now we know. Like, it seemed like Mortman kept knowing all their plans before, like whenever they went out to the countryside, Jim, Will, and Tessa. I could not believe that. I mean, I know I've heard a lot of people talking about this trilogy so far, and they're not a fan of her, and I didn't really quite understand why until now. Yes, she doesn't want to be a part of this Shadowhunter like world, but I never thought she would betray them. So that was totally, I didn't see that coming. But it's funny because I ended up finding sympathy for her later as the story progressed. I think some of you may have just like continued to hate her, but whenever you hear her side and like how much she had somehow tricked herself, I mean, she was delusional, I think, part of the time, but she really felt like she believed she loved Nate. And whenever she was like in prison and she was with like the Silent Brothers, and she was like in the prison cell, and she was just laying there, and oh my gosh, when it said like she messing around with the ring and she like broke the diamond, and then she just like I actually felt bad for her, like, because she realized then everything was fake. Everything was a lie. She did all of that for nothing. She betrayed the only family she has for nothing, basically. Like, her husband didn't really ever love her, and he's dead, you know, at this point. I actually felt some pity for her. I really did. Even if she totally did betray all of them and was a complete jerk. But I think the story got really good whenever, backing up a little bit, whenever Sophie hit Jessamine with, is it the mirror? Yeah, whenever she like knocked her out with the mirror, and Will and Tessa end up going to the ball. Tessa ends up changing into Jessamine. I thought that part was so good, and I was like getting so into it by that point. I was like, oh my gosh, go Sophie. The more I get deeper and deeper into this story, this world by Cassandra Clare, the more I like Magnus Bane. And I just think he's such a great character. There's so much to him. And I heard someone say that she's going to be writing something called the Bane Chronicles, and I would be so interested in reading those. I love that he helps Will, and I love that he ends up kind of feeling stuff for Will, and he can even see past all the, you know, crap that Will puts off. I love the ending. Oh my gosh, after he helps him, he ends up kissing him, and that was so funny. Will's like, did you just kiss me? No. You notice I'm not really talking about Will and Jim too much because I'm saving that for the end. Nate, he died in this book, and I thought maybe I would feel something else for him, like maybe we learn he's not a bad guy after all, or no, he's still a bad guy. So I could not believe the whole story with learning about like Nate and Tessa, and like how they're not actually siblings but they're actually cousins, and how Aunt Harriet is actually Nate's own mother, which just makes it so much worse because that means he actually killed his own mother. Yeah, the whole part with, like, I thought it was really odd how, you know, Nate did die, and then before that he was talking to Tessa, and he was like, yeah, you gotta make sure that you wear, you know, your necklace, and like you have to swear. And so that was kind of odd. I'm wondering if it's just something related to maybe the fact that he knows it can save her or something, so maybe, I don't know, it's kind of weird. I'm sure we'll find out more like in the next book though. I thought it was fun how Sophie and Tessa were getting trained, and I thought it was fun like how the Lightwoods came over. I don't really think the Lightwoods are that bad of people. Like, I think that Mr. Lightwood has issues for sure. Sleeping basically with demons. Wow. He got demon pox. Oh my gosh, that whole part with Will just cracks me up when he was singing and stuff. But it was really sad to find out like that basically Mr. Lightwood was the reason why, you know, Gabriel and Gideon's like mother died, is because he gave her demon pox. And how you learn like Mr. Lightwood is also dying, but that's what the Magister has over his head, that he is promising Mr. Lightwood basically like a cure or something. But in my head I'm thinking more than likely he doesn't have a cure, and that he's probably just using him, and then when he's finished with him, he'll be finished with him, and that's it, and he doesn't get a cure and he ends up dying. So I highly doubt that the Magister really has a cure for it, but who knows. I've saved this for the ending because this is like one of the biggest parts. Sometimes I think that some books have a little bit too much, like a lot of the more recent books I've been reading have a little bit too much to do with like love triangles and stuff, and it's almost like, okay, let's read about something different. This book, it does have a love triangle between Will and Jim and Tessa. I think this is the first book one of the first books I've ever read where I'm like actually torn. Most of the time you read a book and, you know, you learn, I don't know, you learn about the characters and you have a preference, like you know who you think in your head should go with whom. This story though, it's so hard to like ever try and pick. Like, I don't think you can really pick. Personally, my immediate like reaction would be to say, oh well, obviously Tessa belongs with Will. But after Jim proposed, I just couldn't, how happy he was, both Will and Tessa saw, like how much he even looked stronger and he looked healthier, and he just was like, Will even mentioned in the book how he'd never seen him look that happy since his parents had died. He's never really concerned himself with if Jim was happy or not. He's always just made sure like Jim is alive and stuff when they're fighting and whatever, and he's never really thought too much about his happiness. And for once Will's just like, oh my gosh, like there's no way I can do this to him. I could not believe that whole part with, you learn Will's backstory about the demon that cursed him. He was so small, he was just a little boy. His sister died, and he ran away from home, only family he knew, to this institute. And for 5 years he's been living this lie that he thinks if someone loves him, he will die. And that is like the worst. That was so sad. And then you find out that it was all a lie, and you were just like, makes it so much worse. Once Will, like Magnus helped Will, and Will was so, like, I mean, he was shocked, but somehow I knew that it wasn't gonna be just smooth sailing from there. Like, somehow I guessed that it'd be just too easy, you know, for Will to find out he didn't ever have the curse. So, and then find Tessa and they make up and everything's fine and then they get together. That would just be too easy. Of course, before he gets his chance, Will's best friend would propose to his girl before he could get to her. And then Will, I felt so bad. And he just like had this light in his eyes, Tessa said, and then it just like started slowly fading. And he's like, whenever Tessa told him, you know, Jim proposed, and Will's like, my Jim? My Jim? Like, wait, what? And that was just heartbreaking, honestly. I don't know what you guys thought, but throughout the whole story, it was so awful, and it was ironic, and it was just sad to know that this whole time Will could have been expressing his feelings to Tessa and stuff. He could have been having more friends. He could have been doing all this stuff, but he thought there was a curse, and it turns out there never even was a curse. So all of it was almost for nothing. And I did like the line from Magnus, though, that Will was saying basically he's ruined his life and all this stuff, and Magnus is like, you haven't ruined your life, like, you haven't even started your life, especially compared to Magnus's life, because Will, I think, is only like 17 or something, and, you know, Magnus he's old. And so yeah, Magnus kind of made him see, like, you know, your life is just starting. Like, don't keep living in the past and think that your life is over. Just like fix it. Just go out there and fix it. Find the girl. And yeah, so the ending of this book was very bittersweet. I was so happy for Jim, and I want him to be happy. I want him to be happy and healthy and strong. I want him to find a cure and all this stuff. But I want Will to be happy. And the fact that he just found out about all this story with the curse and it not being true and stuff, and, you know, having his heart broken, and it was just so, I really like Will, and him showing that he is like, well, don't tell Jim, you know, don't let Jim find out that I love you, and because he doesn't want to take anything away from Jim. What really shows it is the part when Jim is like talking about Will jumping over Tessa and kind of saving her, when they were fighting the huge like robot and stuff. And when Jim's like, oh my gosh, I know why you did it. You must have known how I felt about her, so you saved her. You're like the best friend ever. And Will's just like, yeah, that's why I did it. Because he wants him to be happy. And that just shows how much he loves him. Well, that is it. This book was fantastic. I'm whispering because my roommate is home. So I'm used to always filming with I'm either by myself or my fiance's around or my family's around, and I've never done it with her home. So I feel kind of like a weirdo. So I feel like I shouldn't talk loud. But basically, I pretty much said everything I wanted to say. This book was amazing. Everyone should read it. Everyone should read this trilogy and the Mortal Instruments series. I can't wait to find out what happens with Will and Tessa and Jim. I don't know how it's going to end. I hope that you guys enjoyed this as well. Please let me know what you thought of this book if you've read it. Let me know if you're super excited for Clockwork Princess. Oh my gosh, guys, it's like, what is today? We just have like a couple weeks until the book is out, and it's going to be here, and it's going to be so exciting. And I'll post my book review after it comes out very shortly. I can't wait. So I hope you guys are having a great day, and I will see you all soon. Bye.